Hi, everyone. I think I know a lot of you, but I don't know someone who I'm tracking. I've been here for about 15 years. And right now teaching with Alex Purvis on introduction to architecture. So this is my husband and my partner, Jonathan Davies. We both went there twice, yeah. And a lot of my teachers are here. And so when AJ and Ava thought of this, it seemed like a great chance for us to think about our work. When I come here, I just shoot and I never talk about our work or anything new, because that seems not a good but teaching here has definitely changed everything, I think, in the people. And so in a sort of like reciprocal moment, I'm extremely grateful. And so some of you have been my students and some of you haven't, but I've had a lot of students and they've really changed the way we think. And this particular set of work, which is 3 projects that we did over the course of the pandemic, and the last one is not quite done, the last one I'll show you, was maybe the most deeply affected by having taught you all in core and teaching undergrads in the past few years during the pandemic. So the name of the top is Existing Conditions, Pawn Shops, Dunkin' Donuts, Sweater Factories, and Vic Mills Thrush, because those are the origin sites for problems that we were given for these 3 projects. When AJ asked me for an image to go with the talk, I picked this, but I did not know why. I gave it little thought. But in looking at it again, I was like, why did I pick that? And I always loved this image, and if you were in Core 2, you might recognize it from one of the assignments. But it's somewhere like between tragic and magical. It's not clear if when you step off that pile of dirt, if the world sort of comes into being or falls apart. It's not clear if it's a reflection of the sky in that grid or if it's a hole. And that little kid looking for someone to come help or figure out who's lost in a sort of pile of material debris. Reminds me of working in New York City. It seems like it's both like totally fantastical and very much like a portrait of our office and our lives on a day-to-day basis. And I'm kind of trying to be responsible and think about what the image was in the time it was made. It kind of comes with an idea of building is immoral, that to participate in the sort of material construction, that you should abstain. And I think it's a funny picture then for us to choose because basically all we do as a practice is build. We've written 1 thing in Platt Journal and maybe 5 in Paprika. We've given 1 public talk about our work. And otherwise we just build things. So it's funny. But I think it comes along with 2 other quotes. If you were in Core 2, you might remember, but maybe not from the first day. There's Merle Kelly's quote where she's like, after the revolution, who's going to pick up all the garbage? Which feels interesting because the revolution is imminent and definite, but also there will be something to do afterwards. And an Etel Adnan quote that's like, I went to the moon, planet Earth is old news, like skip the whole thing, which sounds like a good idea, like right now, but comes the name of the poem or the essay is the price of love we are not willing to pay. And that sentence structure is extremely confusing for my brain because it's, well, what if you paid? What would you get? What does it mean? And I think that for JT and I, working and building is a practice of love. It is incredibly complicated. It is incredibly hard, at least for us. It is morally confusing in terms of material use and reuse and clients and all of that stuff. But we're like dedicated to it. We want to build something wonderful. And it always starts something. So for about 8 years, this is just a drawing we do of existing conditions. We did Facebook construction administration for 8 years, for Frank Gary's office, trying to get good at construction administration. So you would have had to work there like 11 years to get the chance to do the same job we got in 0 years. And so this is what we would do right when office floor plate in Manhattan was no longer usable for its built out function. We would come and survey it. That would be the very first step, would be to get the existing conditions right. So this is like not the most frantic. This is an experienced person in our office, Sam Jaff, surveying. But you can see there's like 1 million tiny dimensions there. And it's sort of a drawing of what actually happened. It's not something, usually you draw it, it gets built, and then many things happen no one knows about, but live with every day. This is a drawing of that seam line before it becomes the next thing. And this is a photograph of JT trying to measure a building we're going to be building. It's the third project in Maine, in the snow. He took a ski lift to get up there, and just trying to find some sort of precision in this wobbly world. And I think when we talk about existing conditions, it's gone from like a sort of chuck away word where you're like existing conditions, VIF, if you've ever worked in an office and you want to cover yourself, you just write verify and field, coordinate with architect, VIF, GC to confirm. I think doing all that CA oddly made us feel like, well, you don't have to chuck it away. You could know it. It could change the way you think and the way you practice. And this particularly beautiful drawing, also made by Sam Jaff in our office, is all of the structural failures in a newly poured slab in a Facebook at 770 Broadway at like 2:22 p.m. on a whatever. Because we had to report everything back to Frank's office, all the defects, all the problems. That was our job. But it's also really beautiful. So the three projects I'm going to be talking about, and I might summon JT because sometimes my brain skips it out, but are a sweater factory on the left that is in Ridgewood, Queens, a 5-story gallery sort of development that's on Canal Street in Manhattan, and a restaurant that is at the top of a ski mountain, and that image there on the right is how you get to the job site. So the first project, this is JT's eyeball in an image of the sweater factory. So apparently in like the 50s, Queens, Ridgewood, Queens was the sweater factory of the sweater factory capital of the United States. And what was the percentage?
3 out of 4 sweaters were made.
3 out of 4 sweaters worn by the American people were made in Ridgewood, Queens. So this is on the left, here's a better picture. On the left was a factory, and then they mirrored it on the right, and then they connected it at the rear of the lot for ease and function. It's very strange that they directly mirrored the building. That's what happened. And our client, who is a developer but had never developed anything and worked entirely alone and was also a surfer, decided to buy this and see what would happen. And so he had no idea of what, this is not on the record, this is what I don't no idea what to do. Had not done, I think, a single math equation. And so let us just like run free for a while. Like this is a moment during that period where we had become so obsessed with existing conditions. On the left is an image of the existing ductwork. And we're like, well, that's just totally wonderful. We should make an entire playground on the roof based on those forms, which is what you see on the right. So that, I don't know who we thought would go there, but you would be like frolicking among the ducts. And then the thing on the left is like a new igloo form that Hetty and Kwok, who graduated from here a few years ago, made these sort of like fantastical roof creatures. This did not go forward. Then we were looking at this sort of mirroring of the existing massing, and since he couldn't figure out what he was doing, for a while he partnered up with a
music production
duo who wanted to make a nightclub, a bar, a recording studio, a green room, a restaurant, and whatever. So this is a model for that. And on the left, you can see the large rectangle on the left was going to be where you danced, and the little rectangle on the upper, this was, the middle here was performance, this was the green room, this was the private bathrooms, this was like ticketing, this was supposed to be a hallway lined in black, all sorts of things. But what we liked was the idea that we could sort of get this circulation mirrored back across this big corpse. You could spill out after the performance and all hang out here. And then when we kind of got the sense that maybe those guys weren't so for real, we really just focused on this middle area here, trying to think about question mark could happen on this side, question mark could happen on this side. It was like good, clear, open space with just a few columns. And how could we make a central core that would allow it to be interpreted different ways? So here you can see we basically, if you've looked at existing conditions long enough, you can tell when something's been filled, when you get the structure for free. So if you open up a window, it's free, basically. But if you make a new window, it's expensive. This guy didn't have any money. So we basically hunted down all the old openings, opened them, and then only would either mirror it or make its duplicate in sheetrock, which is cheap. So this line here is the masonry line where all the original openings were put back. And this line here is a sheetrock line doubling that. So you would end up with 4 framed openings. And then we had this sort of central core dilation.
Oh, well, we were looking at Diocletian's Palace, it's true, but also there's an apse and what's called a hemicycle shape at the back. And we were interested in letting the courtyard have these kind of loggia created by that double wall. So the courtyard life goes more deeper into the building.
So we thought we'd like sock all the program. Right here, this is a little hemicycle of toilets. So this is you can kind of like roller skate all the way around this circulation area. You can mingle in the center and you can get out into the courtyard, any way possible. And then there's this universal bathroom design back here where you can have your own individual toilet. So this was the plan that we had fully developed and was like ready to go. And I think we had a permit for the nightclub. And then the pandemic started and these people ran away. And so we ended up having to regroup and we ended up building empty space to be interpreted. But we kept the central idea of this mirrored core where all of the heavy lifting occurred in the center. And this was basically just put back to void. So this was the plan before the pandemic of what would happen in the courtyard. There was communal dining, everything, and this was a courtyard maybe kind of deep in the pandemic. Before the pandemic, we made a large model, and I think your girlfriend, right, the Stargala twins were there that summer. We made this huge model trying to look at that central space, and we had these ideas about, okay, we're gonna save the rocks and put the rocks in the middle. Like, we don't wanna waste anything. We wanna have everything kept and used differently. And these you can see here are the windows that are sort of eccentric that we were putting back. We said like any window that's there for free, we're taking. And then this was, these are all, this model was of the center, and then this is a model of the perimeter, so it's probably half the size of this table. But we were trying to see like what could we get light-wise if we took this old line, mirrored it 4 times. And the only plan being to blow out that one area at the central front. Another thing we've been doing recently to save money again was when we make skylights, we don't take the framing out. We just take the sheathing of the top out because that's also free. So we were like, what if we made a huge skylight that goes with this toilet ring? And what if we gave each toilet its own little private skylight? Looking up, I had a brilliant idea that was rejected, which was that when you went to use the bathroom, a light would also shoot into the air, letting everyone know, and that was not approved. And maybe if you can see here in the model, the Stargalas were researching what if we could, the dead man, like the concrete bollards, and if we could put them all together, like we didn't want to buy anything, we just wanted to use stuff we found. And we got so sort of maybe fetishistic about the existing, this is a model where we went and made ourselves photograph the existing wall in perfect elevation so that we could put a paper drawing of all of the existing pipes and conduits to see like, okay, well, if the floor's gotta be new and the beam, like how's it really gonna feel? And then we would take the model back to the site to visit the site. And like this night, they had a party for the future space and the old space, and this was the model kind of showed up. So this is where things feel like that super studio image. The dumpster comes, and then no matter what we did, by the factor of touching this site, which was a sweater factory, which is deeply toxic, all the soil had to come out. So even if we wanted to keep, or I guess, even if we wanted to keep it, all of this had to get chopped up. These strange sort of like art installation looking cracks appeared. And then as you see, they had to put
take out the dirty dirt.
Take out the dirty dirt and put in the clean dirt, which hurts the brain a little. And then cover the whole thing with this kind of mountain of gravel. And most of the images we're going to show are sort of process images because I think we're in love with it. You know, it's just unbelievable what you see when you work on a job site. Because of COVID, everything kept stopping and starting, and so everything was mismatched sequentially. And I think in some ways, like the obsession with looking at these things grew because we would go to something that would normally be done in 24 hours, and it might be sitting there for 2 or 3 weeks. So you can see here they're trying to lay out the datum on the wall at the same time that there's this like ocean of gravel. Or here they didn't get to this part yet. She's trying to run a site meeting. This is heavy, and like, you know, you have this crazy foreground, and then there's weird little like this is actually looking through the ground into the one managed space that was remaining, which was in the basement. And then similarly, during construction, all these strange, like really beautiful moments that exist where you see people figuring it out. So if you recall the toilet hemicycle, these are the waste lines coming out of the new gravel. This is the drawing they made on the roof, trying to like project through the space up to where the different holes would be so that they could strategically check and make sure they weren't drilling through any of the structure. That's how we kept it, like essentially just the cost of the skyline. And here you can see the beginning of this sort of doubling. You can see like this has stayed and reopened, this was stayed and reopened, like we took the heights and occasionally would do some patching on the right length, but this is the middle of what will be the big central space. And at that time, we had an employee who really liked to scan things in construction. Oops, what did I do? I'm too excited. Click. Huh? Okay. There's no mouse. I know, but.
You just click on that.
Oh.
Right.
But there's, oh, there, you got it. Right there. Okay, there we go. Price is good. Anyway, so this is a scan of the conditions mid-construction done with photogrammetry.
It's not LiDAR.
Right, not where you can see the hemicycle, the old skylights coming back. For some reason, it's like more like shaped like wings than the space really is. These we threw in just so you can see the light starting to come back in on the right. When you reopen all those little window openings along the corridor, you get the light sort of tracking your motion. And this is looking through the new spaces. This is the amazing development of the skylights in the toilets. So here you can see the little wedge-shaped toilet chamber, more plumbing. And this above your head is like an interior skylight that just goes to the roof of the toilet structure, but it's aligned perfectly because of that drawing with a skylight in the ceiling. So if you're having a poo, you can look all the way up and see it. And then this is the big skylight, which when you leave the frame does sort of a nice effect with the light being broken. So we're getting just towards the end. You can see here the big skylight, the little skylights, each of these over a hole for the toilet. This like one clean wall, that existing wall that there was a photo of, and how the light kind of dumps down during the day in totally different shapes from that bigger skylight. And then similar, well, I guess in the same mentality, the sink is all made by the guys on site. It's just bricks stacked up. We had to figure out how to do the ADA, like wheeling here. And the pipes are pipes, like everything is what the sink is. The lights are lights, the pipes are pipes. This is a Stargala mirror proportion, for sure. It's the world's smallest mirror for unvain people. And this is the skylight in your private bathroom. And this is everything kind of working together. This one wall, the one wall we kind of like had a lot of executive decision making on. We tried to use, it's got the structure, it's got the additional light that's needed, it has the materiality and the texture. And we made it have many, many doors because we liked that sort of, I guess, surreal configuration. And then this is the new fence on the street that you can close. And so I think I'm gonna go quick because these are little movies. Oh. Skip it.
Yes.
So this is we made these little movies when we were trying to photograph the space because the photographs are sort of useless in some ways, like they show you one thing at 1 second. But we really like the way the space moves, that it's very open and porous in that central area. We really love those little rocks which are left over from the demolition. The day after, you can see everyone's like lovingly placing them in a grid. They threw them all away. We had saved them for 4 years.
Yeah.
And then it is gone. This movie is, if it works, our son doing what we would do with this space, which is sailing through it on a scooter and enjoying all the ways in and out. That's Jack, that's Jack. There he goes. This movie goes on an extraordinarily long time, and I'll cut it short, but he even goes around the bathroom boomerang sooner or later. And you can see all the light that comes through just from using those primarily old holes, and that one moving in the center. And then the last one is just sort of closing time. You can see, I think they sold the building last Thursday.
It's a good thing.
I guess
This is what the developer wanted.
I guess it worked. They sold it, but this movie is how the same windows kind of come back at night facing outward to the courtyard. And then we use this marine grate that has the weird quality because of its depth that when you walk by it on the oblique, it's solid, but it's actually extremely translucent from if you're on it straight on. So that Sam, who oversaw this project, closing up. How am I doing?
Good.
Okay. So the second one we did, so that started in 2018. It should have been done in 2019, and it was done in 2023. This project similarly started in 2019, should have been done in 2021.
Is it done?
And still has a punch list. So this is the building we're talking about is here. It's a 5-story building on Canal Street. This is from the 1940s tax map photos where it shows that there was an elevated train station there. And it's the second one in here. It's on this crazy spot when you get off the Manhattan Bridge. And it has almost like a perfect triangle nose. So for the most part, it's a straight New York rectangle, 25 by whatever the lot was, or their setback, but it has a crazy extra shape. And when we were approached by the client, who we worked with a lot, this was like a private adventure, also a little bit like a development idea. He had never developed a building, but he decided to buy this 5-story building to make a gallery, studio space for artists, art storage, apartments, workspace. And it looked like this. It was a lone pawn shop, a Dunkin' Donuts, and there also seemed to have been like a hot dog aficionado somewhere because we found about 45 hot dog signs during demolition. And I think what's weird is, I mean, JT and I love the black and white image on the left, like they have, because of the funny angle, you can see like they don't know which way to put their signage. If they face forward, they're not facing the bridge. If they face the bridge, you can't see it unless you're coming off the bridge. And the windows also are these like huge full tilt windows that I guess can aim both ways. Do you see them up here? Like there's some, we did not get those back. But when you see it here, it's like Nowheresville. Except that when you stand there, you know you're definitely at the base of that bridge. But by the time you got inside the Dunkin' Donuts, you could have been anywhere. It's like total generic Dunkin' Donuts space. The colors, the lighting, the smell had nothing to do with where it was. But right below this sort of like, I don't know, like I think I went to one today, but you could be like at the side of the highway. But right below it, because of where it was, this is a drawing. JT, you should tell the story again.
It's, so if you do a project that's anywhere near a subway line, you have to get approval from the MTA. In 2020, and I think maybe still now, you have to go in person to the basement of a building in Lower Manhattan. And I think the man's name is Mo, who sits in kind of a locked cage. You have to get paper prints of the drawings from that area, all to show that we weren't close enough to have any impact. And one of the drawings we got was the section through the utilities at this intersection of Bowery and Canal, which was, we were fascinated by these drawings. We pored over them for weeks. Had nothing to do with the project in the end, but it's like one of these things that's there all the time and fully documented.
And you think you're there, like you're really there. And this is, if you back up a little bit, this was after we started construction. It's now this yellow building, which if you watch the slides, you'll see this amazing advertising location changes with great frequency. So part of this weird Mobius strip project was that if you wanted to make what they wanted to make, you would have to sort of rip the building down. But if you ripped the building down, you wouldn't be allowed to build the building because you would need so much egress and associated like code upgrades that it couldn't exist. So you had to leave the building in order to change the building, and you had to leave exactly like 51% of the building in order to use the 1938 code instead of the 2021 code. And so you can see here a moment during demolition where 51% of the existing joists are remaining and the rest is gone for the new core. These are the, I think, close to the final version of the plan. It's a 5-story building that's really 8 stories in like classic New York way. So there's a gallery on the basement level, gallery on the first floor, gallery on the second floor with an office. I think what's legally a workspace, and then apartment roof deck. And you can see here in this drawing that 50% existing, 50% new, just by the section of the building. The framing here and here is deep, and the framing from here to here is shallow. So this whole core, which was required to get the elevator and all the other access they wanted, is new, and this is existing and existing. It took probably 9 months to figure that out, right?
Yeah, so
When they wanted like a speakeasy, it was crazy. And this red line is where the bottom of the world was when we started this project. So this was the cellar. Oh, okay. So here's the beginning of demolition. You can see this is the Dunkin' Donuts on the left. In the middle here is this like completely crazed moment where they poked through the Dunkin' Donuts storage and found a chamber that appeared to have been someone's bedroom or something right here. This is Luke, who was working for us in that space. And all of these guys here, who are braver than any of us, I think, are looking around a hole in the floor that was 6 feet deep and was filled with rats. So this was like a bounty in New York, though. There was a 6-foot extra space, and all you had to do was contend with the rat matter, and you could have it for your fancy gallery. So they did that somehow, and then this is the first day any of us was brave enough to go down there and find the extra volumetric footage. And just take note here, if you look right here, there's like a little hole in the wall because it's gonna come back later. So in demolition, we found another floor, which is very good if you're trying to be a gallery that shows like movies, projections, etc. It gives you a lot of extra volume. So that same wall where you saw Luke crawling around, that's here. This is that hole in the wall. And all of this $1 million square footage appeared for free. So the entire gallery that was supposed to be this tall, and then part of it stayed that way because you couldn't remain storage. And then this whole thing became like the best gallery they've got. And you can see here these weird moments where this is the old masonry, the newer masonry, and then we're adding more layers on top because even though we tried to get them to keep it, they were not interested, of framing, of mold-resistant sheetrock, and our little steps. And just all these kind of like interim structures that exist. And again, this project went on maybe 5 years too long, so we saw all these things and they became, I think, part of it. Also kind of during, just like average day, like this is the Dunkin' Donuts. This is their tile floor, hasn't gotten taken out yet. But it's sort of like wonderfully beautiful in there, although illegal and not fire rated and a million other things. But it's just beautiful to be in a job site. And I think also it's really, the more experience you have, you can kind of read these things. Like we were like, oh, someone stuck tiles here, then they pop the tiles off, that's the mastic, this is the, like this is the old. It's just kind of like incredible bounty of data. And then these other types of things that happen where they make little things to hold up other things. This is the contractor's device to hold up the temporary gutter that they had to make inside when it started raining. This is their little framing for, not little, this is their beautiful framing for holding up a beam that's not yet allowed to be a beam, that, some sort of shoring. And this magic trick they did where somehow they got framing sistered in here, although there is no floor here. And this is a photo of us somehow in this like chaos trying to figure out which of these two light profiles, which are different, would be better. We thought it would be good to bring it to the site. And I think because we were making a gallery, just like over time, strange things started appearing to us. And I think because of being teaching, like on the left is this beautiful thing that was in Dunkin' Donuts. We don't know why. This triangular column, that was the origin of it. We took it out and it was the origin of like all of that little framing for the new beam. And on the right, because they didn't finish doing the front facade before they decided to put the finished material on the ceiling, they made this beautiful shape of sheetrock that when you want to avoid the hard parts, so you just do the rectangles first. But we would have kept it, it's just not done. And then as it became more and more finished, like we would go to take a picture for punch list, like the left is they never painted the frame on the primary window on the main street where you can see the funny angle, but it also felt like a hopper for free. Like it looks like a hopper painting with saturated colors, like these crazy hues. And the one on the right where you can see the lights kind of going to infinity. And I guess maybe our brains got really screwy or something, but we were like, does it always happen or is it only happening here? Or like, we just, if we go to the facade, this was the day before we shut the office down for the pandemic. Someone in our office said we should take the slide out because it was the same image. It is not. It is studying in great detail the bottom entry. You can see microscopic differences along there. And then I think, again, we feel like there was this brilliant contractor special where they had to fill one thing and then another thing and another thing, and the greens were slightly different because they were using old enclosures, and we loved it. So we made probably a less nice version after grade study. You can see here's that big window, the hopper for free window, the gallery entrance, and then this entrance goes to the apartments. This is the worst sign they ever had, which was depressing to show them to. And this is, again, another amazing moment where they painted the building before they were done making the facade. But this is some like close-ups of the facade where it's like anything that we found that we thought was interesting, we just left. So there's an old wrought iron column, the steel from the different Dunkin' Donuts modification, the pawn shop modification. And then here you can see when you walk by, because of the strange angle, everything looks like it's going in the wrong direction, which is probably a good match for an architect. And here's, you know, these strange reflections, which would be true of any window ever, but I guess we just see it differently because it's our window. The World Trade Center here, and then looking towards the bridge where you can see like this irreconcilable geometry where you appear to be going like 3 directions. JT snuck in one night, couldn't find the light switch, and felt like he saw the space like performing sort of magic tricks for him. This is the space we shouldn't have. This is the storage room up here that makes these beautiful shadows. And this is a little tiny crack that somehow emerged from the new stair from this area upstairs, where you can sit and stare at the show from the floor above without going. At some point, the contractor stopped working entirely and said he could not do any more. And so we got someone in our office to make all the millwork, or the majority of the millwork. This was Sam Oldshoe, made all of his plywood. And there's that light we picked up there. So this is the finished, formerly RAD location, gallery, which when it's empty looks sort of like a Robert Gober something. And there's a secret door to the storage room there. And then these are just the different shows they've had in the same space. So it's not really like design is put something amazing in there. And just made the rectangle. But these are all the different things that have occurred with that little stair staying there. And I don't know if I put any of them in, but sometimes the thing they put in looks like a construction photo. Like one day they brought in doors from construction scaffolding. You're like, what? But this guy here is sort of like, when we go there, we're like, is this now an installation or somewhere in the middle of construction, and not with any like snotty judgment, like we love it. It just feels so familiar because it was doing it the whole time anyway. And this maybe was a horrible nightmare in which an artist thought it would be amazing to paint stains on the new door. Can you see the yellow drip there? And so we put it on the punch list, which is like the list of everything that's wrong. It got painted over, and then we had to explain that someone has to tell the contractor the difference between the real leaks, of which there were many, and this beautiful circle is the finished concrete on one of the floors, which has the tiny paw prints of the remaining animals that only we will know about, right? But they're there. And that is our child and JT's dad, I think more, on the steps. But they're on the steps, same steps. All right, the left. Okay. So the last project we're going to show, do you guys know? Oh, you want to? The last project we're going to show is new construction in Maine, which I think seems entirely different. We're not taking anything apart in terms of building, but we are taking apart this totally spectacularly beautiful, tiny, special forest. That's Luke measuring. So the site here is an existing site, obviously, that's on the earth. On the left is the sort of forest glade that we were told to build in. On the right is the view that this mountain wanted to get for their clients. So basically the program is it's a restaurant at the top of a ski lift. And the idea is you go up there and you ski down and like have a hot toddy and keep skiing. Or in the summer, people come, including the guy who made the plywood furniture's mother, to see that bird, the Bicknell's thrush. That bird is not a particularly magical looking bird. Like, we're not bird people, but it has a special song where the last note goes up. So if you're into it, people wait, they sleep outdoors, like waiting all night to hear the sound of the Bicknell's thrush. And the Bicknell's thrush likes these edge conditions. They like this height, and they like it when they're adjacent to a clearing. I guess that's their happy spot. So building something there doesn't hurt them. They like the edge, but you can't build when they want to be there. So you've got like a huge construction limitation on when you can do anything. The other limitation is that it's on a ski mountain, and it snows a lot. And a lot of times it does more than snow and you can't even take the chairlift, they just shut the whole thing down. And there's also mud season, that's a different story. But these are some photographs. On the left is the way you get to the job site and how you get to the restaurant. In the middle are these sort of amazing trees that all have a funny shape because there must have been a very big storm when they were babies, and they all made like funny little figures and then kept growing. And on the right is like the sort of bigger vista sort of thing. This was we had 23 jobs the day the pandemic started, and I think 11 of them were canceled within 12 hours of going home. So this was the one job that became a new job during the project, but we were in Vermont. So we found some barbecue sticks and tried to make a model. It was the first model we made, and these were two at our house. And I don't know why, but we were like, it should be, originally it was supposed to just have no enclosure. We were supposed to get a drink and keep skiing. So I think we were like, it should be lightweight, maybe it's a triangle. I'm still not clear why we thought it should be a triangle. And then we were like, but maybe it should have a very heavy roof, like a big, big, chubby roof, and it should look like something like took the ground and went up. And we really liked the idea. It snows like 4 feet, so maybe when it snows, you can just like walk up the roof and down, or maybe the bears go eat on the roof. These were like ideas we had. And it's not that big. We mapped it out. One of our employees came and lived with us for a week, and we mapped out the shape. So that's Alex on the left and JT on the right. It's the triangle we wanted to see. Like, was it big? Was it scary? And I think we started realizing that triangles are only triangles really in plan. In real life and elevation, they're just rectangles. So we had these ideas. We wanted something light and something that grew, and we wanted it to grow like a lot. So it's a 4-foot thick green roof that has like blueberries and stuff dripping off those. And this was another little model we made from like garbage, I think, in our house. And we had an idea that from the outside it would look like a little mountain that was raised with one clear hole that should be enough to get you in. And then when you got in, the whole view would come to you. So we were making these little plans about like, how do you get in, how do you get out, these little spokes. We had maybe like a bad realization that we had made the cover of the Pink Floyd album. And then we were like, well, maybe it's okay, like you go in with one brain and you come out and you see the view, but it's like very corny, but anyway, we did that by mistake. And then we were also looking at, I don't know if any of you guys know this amazing book, La La, which has these drawings by Claude Leloup, but we were like, it should feel like this, like how crazy it is. We get to make a job where you take a ski lift there, or you have to pull an all-nighter waiting for a bird. Like, it's already so surreal. You should feel magical. Like, you shouldn't feel like you're anywhere else except right there, because it's almost impossible. So we were looking at these, we're like, the colors are too crazy. The client's going to fire us. I can't show them this. And then we went back to the site, like related, unrelated, where like half the colors or more are just right there. So this is when they started digging the hole. This, because of the construction period, which is like 2 months a year, 3 months a year.
It's like August and November for the heavy stuff.
So 4 months a year, except that half the time it's raining or muddy or whatever. So I'd say there's probably like 45 workable days. So they would like dig the hole and they were like, well, we missed the season. And then we would wait another year. So like these things kept happening. And then we would bring up, like, we would be very scared, like, oh, but what if it was purple? And we would bring it up there, and it was like, it's no problem. You can do anything you want. Like, the world has more colors than any material. These are our little material palettes. We were trying to see which would feel better on the site, and it didn't. So this was the final, that didn't go up. Thank you, ma'am. That goes up.
Yes.
Yes.
Endangered species.
I didn't see it. So the final site, we wanted to keep as much of the Elfie forest that we were working on is very special to the people of the mountains. This isn't like a giant ski mountain. It's kind of a small, more like family-run ski mountain that's part of a giant conglomerate. But the guys who run the mountain they told us, they were like, oh, we go get stoned in that fort, like it was special, there's special rock. So we tried to keep that. There's one little, like a bigger plan. And the way we have it is as you get off the lift, you come this way. There's one opening. When you get in, you're sort of like flipped around. This is the view. If you want to get a pull-up hot toddy, you ski this way. They hand it to you through the wall, and then you ski through the mountain. There's little fire pits and places to sit along the way. And the rest of it, it got a little bit heavier than like a tent. They started adding like a full kitchen. The guy who was, I guess, making the project happen really wanted to eat oysters there. Like it got like more and more surreal and weird. And then we needed like a lot of bathrooms and generators. And so there ended up being a lot of stuff in that back, but we put it all back here. And then there's a big bar and a place to hang out, and then the view. So these are 9 iterations. We probably did 45. And that's kind of how it all goes in our office. These are 9 different plans looking at the exact same idea with like slightly different sawtooth geometries and slightly different grid. Like this one has 3, 2, but they're in a different ratio than the others. This one has a wood stove for pizza, that got cut. And then these are the elevations, and I think these aren't quite the final, but yeah, you can't really, these aren't, I don't know. And the sections where underneath this big 4-foot thick green mound is an exposed structure, kind of like honeycomb, and then a really sheer datum at 8 feet. It's a very tiny building. It can look big, but it's very small. And 1 skylight. This is an amazing drawing of all the bolts and only the bolts it takes to hold the steel together. So we picked the construction technique based on the construction window, and everyone picked steel instead of timber. We wanted wood originally because they thought they could prefabricate and erect it. In the end, when they brought it, every single piece, I think, was wrong. But these are the bolts that Thornton Tomasetti figured out to hold it together. And this is them in 3D, if you wanted to see what's holding it up. And this is, we do a lot of models in the office. This is Adam making the site, and right there is where the building will go. And this is that same model with the building in it and the scale people coming out. And then this was a more detailed model once we got that bolt drawing, where we made all of the steel trusses to make sure that it felt like not too big and not too small, and it became honey yellow. This is JT's favorite drawing, because it has all the little feet. We also, they kept trying to have us make a basement. They wanted us to make it really sink in, and we really didn't want to disturb more than we needed to. So the steel was all brought prefabricated, but we just wanted these little toes. So this is a drawing trying to figure out the little toes, but what is the reason? It says, needs to be rebuilt. 642 pieces.
Unbuilt objects.
Unbuilt objects. And it's what that details. And then at the office, I think similarly, everyone was like, too much to do, we can't finish everything, blah, blah. So we started doing a lot of it ourselves. On the left is a full-scale study of the bird screen. We got out of having to do the glass that looks like ski goggles. That was what they wanted, so the birds don't fly in, by proposing string. And we started making the millwork in the office to bring up so it'd be done. So birds want to die. They don't. Want to fly into a reflective surface because they think there's more sky. So you have to obfuscate it. You can buy $1 billion glass that looks like ski goggles. It's crazy looking. Or you can put string in front of the window. And then this is just sort of the beginning of construction. These are the boxes for the footings. And these sort of strange familiar things where some of the steel looks like those snow-covered branches from the beginning. The yellow color we picked is somehow weirdly also the yellow of the substrate of the radiant floor. And then this other weird unexpected moment where they built a building around the building so they could keep building in the winter. So you can see our building is here, but they made themselves a little perimeter shed so they could get around and keep going. And then for a while our building was a 3M building, which was kind of a beautiful pattern. And these were just, I think we just liked these. Over the course of it, like whatever, the existing conditions of the site kept changing. Like this is a pile of insulation ready to go, so the view was that. This was a pile of different gravels and materials. We were going to look for rocks, like that. And then this is maybe more recently the top of the roof before the green roof, where there's this whole new landscape. This is Carl, this is Eric who built the whole thing and doesn't like us. Well, he'll maybe someday. But you can, anyway, what it's missing is it's 4 foot thick. This skylight is sticking up because it doesn't have its soft roof. So all of this faceting is not really real. And this is it with its, without its green roof, but one day soon this will be green. So there's the ski lift, the sort of slide in here, the view here, and then you can ski out this way with your hot toddies, and you're supposed to be able to get married here. This is the marriage field. And this is for the really fast people. They like this run. This is an amazing solution for conduit that they came up with. It gets covered in snow, so you makes a little like sluice through the trees. And this is the building beginning to be finished. It has pine tar cladding, so pine tar sealed cladding, which is sort of like a Scandinavian technique. And this is still not done, but the beginning of opening the door and seeing this sort of like golden world inside where the view, that's the view. It's almost too bright till you get into to adjust. This is the rock where the guys used to hang out. That's right next to it, and you can open these in the summer and just walk right out and sit on the rock. And this is the inside. They were trying to have a party for someone that donated a lot of money, so all the tables are set up. But actually we ended up building all the tables, all the furniture, and Sam in our office would get taken up on a bobcat in the winter and would go and install things and then come down at the end of the day. These are just some more views of a sort of it's one room, like a different scales of seating and relationships. After we were done with the La, we became really obsessed with the color scheme of this cover. It's like totally weird. And then we looked at our photo roll from visiting the site, and we realized, like, it's true. By the time you take the sky and the trees and the mountains in, I think we're close. The bathroom is hot pink. These are some of the donors' friends just sitting after lunch looking out. And then we started looking at it in black and white. I think most of the buildings we like, we've seen in black and white, and so we just wanted to see what it was like. And it has, for a simple triangle, it can look completely mute. It can look extremely pointy. It can have like one clear opening. This is the facade where all the services are. So this is the bathroom window and the hot pink thing. Exhaust, all of it's concealed in these same boards. Mechanical room, mechanical levers, kitchen door. And this is the entry where you would open these big doors that are CNC milled with these little glass sort of cups inside of it, and little tiny glass dots here, and a piece of bark that we had turned into bronze. It's like they burn the bark and it becomes bronze, right? That's what
burnout casting.
They burn out
it's like
casting.
Lost wax, but you burn them.
And these little lights. So when you actually come, you open this piece of wood, which isn't wood, and you go through this door that's a wing made huge, and then you see the bright space. So this is the room. There's the rock. You can see the different views. And here it is on a rainy day. The existing condition here, I think, was the bird. And so this is the final solution for the bird. This is the detail, not the final solution like that. There's 2 dowels and little tiny strings. You can kind of see them here. They kind of float around. And the idea is if they get damaged, the people who love the birds can fix them when they wait up all night. And we got a crazy, unsolicited call the other day from someone named Katie that said, "My name is Katie. I'm a Resilience Corps fellow working with the Portland Society for Architecture and Maine Audubon on their joint initiative, Bird Safe Maine. I have been working on a website that explains the nature of bird window collisions and highlights the amazing bird-safe projects we have right here in Maine. It is intended to fill the niche of resources for architects, designers, and building managers seeking an understanding of bird-safe methods. It's my understanding that you are involved in the Saddleback Mountain Lodge Edition and that a monofilament screen system has been incorporated into the project. I would love to include this project on the website and bring attention to the amazing work you all have done. I was wondering if you would be open to coming to a short interview on this project. I love this letter very much because it's just string and it's a miracle. So I think this is I think the last slide we have.
Yeah, so this is a moment from last winter. We would often stay later than the other workers in the building. It would get very dark and very cold, and this day I was alone, waiting to be picked up by the snowcat, which is a tremendous feeling to have while on the job. And the next day I'm in the New York office, so it's this sort of surreal experience that kind of encapsulates, or it happens to us all the time, that we don't know where to put these thoughts sometimes.
So this is the quote that appeared one day, I can't remember from where, I think it was in a book about Robert Irwin, but it says, "Wherever you are, go out into the evening, leaving your room of which you know every bit. Your house is the last before the infinite, whoever you are." I think that it's like, I'm not sure, we never talk about our work out loud, it's a little mortifying, but I think we really love all these small things. I think like teaching with Alec twice a week, I'm reminded how beautiful almost anything can be, or how horrible, but just how much there is to know. And I think that having come to this moment, once we get that green roof, this job is done, that's kind of what we plan to work on next, is being, not just noticing that it happened, but initiating that being part of the process for the entire duration of our job, because it's where like we get a lot of reward and satisfaction. And then that's all I got.